Arsenal get 4 wins in total this season, but 3 in the Premier League and a draw, which leaves Arsenal on 10 points. And here we're going to analyse Arsenal's beginning of their season. We're going to be looking mainly at the Premier League, how the squad has been used, the tactical dilemma that Mikel Arteta has been with so far this season, and we're going to get into so much more in this video. So, guys, stay tuned for all things Arsenal here on the Arsenal Show. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to Tereak Talks, guys. I hope you're all keeping good. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a fantastic week as here recording this on, streaming this on Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. Here in the UK, it has been very hot, as you can probably tell by my face right now. If you're seeing any shine or glisten, my room is boiling. It is very hot here in the UK. I'm sure every room, every house that doesn't have air conditioning will be hot. We don't have air conditioning in the UK because we don't have it often enough for it to be worthwhile. And our houses are made to insulate heat. So, yeah, we struggle here with a lot of heat, but we struggle with a lot of weather. So I'm not going to complain about it. I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys who are based in the UK are enjoying it too. And wherever you're watching, I hope you're having fantastic weather. Because I know if you are on holiday, there's plenty of people who are out on holiday enjoying the sun, especially if they're in Europe or anywhere in Europe. Or, you know, we've got all the other warm climates there too. And yeah, I hope you're all having a fantastic one. Those of you who have gone back to school or gone back to work or you've recently had a holiday, I hope you're having a good start as well. You know, we've got to be grateful for these things in life. we surely do, because, hey, we take things for granted a lot of the time. And speaking of taking things for granted, I think maybe some of us as Arsenal fans have taken for granted how good we are as a team, having 10 points out of 12 so far. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Arsenal tactically and certain players not performing as well, new signings, how they've adapted. We've seen a contrast in that area there, but here we're going to talk about it all. And yeah, so just some of the things that we've got on the agenda today. So we're going to be talking about the 4 games as a whole, some of the different things that we've seen, the different systems, have they worked? Is it something that Arteta will continue to do now that we've got the likes of Zinchenko and Gabriel returning back to the side? How we're going to manage with injuries, with more competitions coming up. We'll talk about each and every one of those, and also talking about individual players, how they've performed, and ones that we haven't quite seen as yet also. So we got plenty to talk about here. So guys, if you don't mind just smashing that like button if you haven't done so already, get your drinks, get your popcorn, and get your fingers ready to let me know your thoughts in the live chat or in the comments as well. So before I go into whatever I do, big up to everyone watching. So we've got 2 people watching here right now, and Mr. 200 and Realist. I hope you're having a good one, guys. Big up to my bro Realist right here. As you can see from his name, he's a Man United fan, but he's still here showing love and support. I'll be keeping well, my brother. And Mr. 200 says he has a 3:45 start, so we'll be catching up in the morning, as he usually does. Thank you for commenting and dropping your nice message, and let me know your thoughts on each topic that we talk about, or whichever one that you feel that you feel strongly about. So let's get into it. Let's start off with talking about that victory against Manchester United in particular, because, you know, it was a big match, huge game for Arsenal, off the back of everything that we previously mentioned, you know, with the new system, with Gabriel Magalhaes's future up in the air due to not playing in Arteta's new revolutionized, evolved system, shall I say, that he's slightly made slight tactical adjustments to. And he's challenged Gabriel Magalhaes and said that, yeah, I need him to prove that he can do what is required. And with Zinchenko returning back from injury, who we had to slowly bed in, and get him slowly build up his minutes because of him not being injured, missing the preseason tour, not playing a single game since before the Crystal Palace game, since the Newcastle game in May. So yeah, there was a few things thrown off our balance there. So we had the likes of Zinchenko and Gabriel returning, which kind of saw a return to the old system, I'd say, because obviously we're missing Thomas Partey in this game as well due to injury. So this one was a massive victory. And it wasn't this isn't Arsenal at their free flowing best. We can admit that. But it was an improvement, I'd say, against tougher opposition. A bigger game, big occasions that we've seen the players at home rise up to them and take on the pressure at times. And they really do rise up to these big games now, Arsenal, against Manchester United in particular. There's still obviously areas that we need to see Arsenal rising against their other team in Manchester in blue. But it was a lot more of an encouraging performance. And we saw some players that weren't at their brilliant, sharp best kind of return and getting back towards the level that they were previously showing before. And it was interesting. Arsenal won by 3-1, and I'm still buzzing off of that, by the way. The Sun and an Arsenal win, it has given me a great start to the week. And you know what? I feel more motivated even to do this, talking about Arsenal with you guys. Even though we've hit an international break, I thought this would be the perfect time to kind of evaluate these things. And just a quick tactical overview on what we saw in this game. The returning Zinchenko and Gabriel allowed us to shift back into our system where we have Ben White moving back into right back. And that was the main real tactical adjustment, because we've seen Saliba be more of a central defender, play right in the middle of the park, and Ben White being next to him. And we haven't seen him connect on that right side with Odegaard and Saka like we saw them at their best throughout plenty of games last season, throughout that consistently from the start to the end. With Odegaard, Saka, and White. That was a phenomenal trio down on that pod in that position there. And because we've had that change to the left with Kai Havertz coming in and Granit Xhaka going out, we've seen his struggles, and we'll talk more about that, of course, as well, guys. So big up to those of you. I can see your comments in here. G Wills, we'll start at when we talk about Havertz and when we get into that there. But what we have seen in these opening games is Partey playing at right back, and he inverting from the right. Well, inverting is not actually the correct term. I heard that the other day that's not actually the correct term, but you know what I mean. The right back or the left back going into the center of the pitch, making that midfield overload. And then we usually have Ben White, who will be a bit more conservative and only go forward when the opportunity arises on that side. And with Zinchenko having that free role. And what we saw that was very interesting is, as you can see here on the average positions, what I've got is he definitely came inside a lot more. But we also saw in the very beginning of each half, Zinchenko move over to the right side and Declan Rice move over to the left. And I think that's a slight tactical adjustment without having Thomas Partey in there. I think Arteta wanted to start Thomas Partey in this fixture and intended to, until we found out late on Friday that he picked up an injury in training. And that kind of threw his plans out of the window a little bit. And he kind of asked Zinchenko to cover on that right side. And the main reason is because Declan Rice has been more comfortable in his career so far at West Ham, playing off the left, working in that left half space of the pitch in those deeper areas. And we have seen him kind of transition towards the right a little bit more. We saw that in the Palace game where he played as a number 6 who roamed those central areas, who went out into the left and into the right. But before that Palace game, we've mainly seen Declan Rice off the left, and that's where he feels that he's most comfortable in and where we've seen him at his best at times. And well, we decided to pay that much money and the potential that we've seen in Rice there. So I think Arteta kind of made that adjustment for him without having Thomas Partey, who usually connects a lot more with Ødegaard, Saka, and White, and provides that overload in that area there. And I think he would have wanted Declan Rice to really work with Martinelli and Zinchenko and make some runs into the box, because we've heard Rice and Arteta speak about the potential of him scoring more goals. Arteta, in the post-match of this game, spoke about how he can arrive with his timing into the box, his technique off of both feet, his left and his right foot, how he can generate a lot of power and accuracy. So I think Arteta does see him as a real 6/8 hybrid, someone who can be in that central area defensively, mopping up in transitions, progressing the ball forward, or someone that can work in that left half space and connect with Zinchenko and Martinelli there. So I thought that was a very interesting tactical setup. And then apart from that, everything else was kind of its usual, apart from Kai Havertz, where I'm not going to get into the intricacies of his performance just yet. I will get into that, those G wheels, that's for sure. But with Kai Havertz, what we have seen him take is, having a look in that average position, he was actually been deeper than Martin Ødegaard. That's been in and out of possession, and with his average position there, we've seen him at points even drop into very deep into Arsenal's, when we're in our build up and progression phase, and be involved in that area there, not looking at his most comfortable. That's not what he's best at, but he's showing much more versatility than we kind of thought. That we know he's had that versatility, but playing in areas that we didn't really expect him to, in that sense. And someone who is known to be more of a second striker, and that's what we've seen in his best period in Bayer Leverkusen. I thought it was quite interesting to see him drop a bit deeper, and what we've seen as a theme in our previous 4 games, including the United one as well. And then everything else remained the same from that tactical standpoint there. So just want to also speak on Kai Havertz, and I want to get into this here because G Wills has said, right, this criticism of Havertz or any player is okay if they're not performing, but abuse, name calling is a no-no. Kai is low on confidence and we should help him settle in. Also, Arteta should ease him in gradually. And what G Wills, first part, I 100% agree with. And I think from what I've seen on social media, it's been better than I quite imagined, to be honest. I thought it'd be a lot more toxic and a lot more, a lot more abuse being thrown at him because of this, because we've seen how volatile our fan base can be at times and what that did to the person who he's coming in to replace in Granit Xhaka, who a lot of people are missing now. And it took him a while to kind of find his best form and find a home at Arsenal. And what we saw in his best position last season was being a box-to-box midfielder, someone who makes those runs into the box, works well in the left half space, can even drift out wide and provide a good cross or final ball at times with Granit Xhaka. And that's not what we expected from him at all when Arsene Wenger brought him in. We thought he was going to be a defensive midfielder, someone filling in the same sort of areas as Kante, as we did choose Granit Xhaka over N'Golo Kante period. And I think that also kind of was a big reason why Arsenal fans were disappointed and showed so much disdain towards Granit Xhaka in the early days, because we always thought, we looked at it and said, why did we get this guy when we could have got Kante? When we went to Chelsea, and Kante, who is a much better player in defensively, and a player that's been phenomenal in his prime. And we've kind of beat him with that stick, and he came into the club on the back foot, which has kind of been the same with Havertz. But I've seen a better reaction from fans overall. Yes, there's still those who are abusing him and they're taking it too far. And yeah, I don't agree with that. That is for sure, G Wills. But I think we should ease him in gradually. So on just talking about him, and I've got a quote here from Aaron Ramsdale. And as you can see, the picture that I've used, he is a nominee for the Yassine Trophy. So big up to Aaron Ramsdale for this, and massive respect. You see, those fans who may not rate him, he's very much rated within the game. That is for sure. And this was a quote that he said after the match. like the manager said in the week, relationships are built in the grass. And that left unit, I want to highlight that left unit probably trained with each other 4 or 5 days, with Zinchenko coming back from injury, and you can see it slowly starting to click. And guys, this is what I wanted to mention, and this is what I've been saying for a while when there's been all the discourse about why is Partey playing at right back. He doesn't look comfortable there. That's not his most natural position. What is Arteta doing? Just get Gabriel back into the side. Let's start playing our football. Why isn't Zinchenko starting, etc. Guys, three reasons. Yeah, three main reasons. Zinchenko hasn't been fit enough to start. He never had a preseason. And you're not going to risk someone who's had a history of picking up injuries and recurring and being out of the side, and with his importance as well, and verting from that left, and how it really makes the system. He makes the Arsenal system. I always like to think there's two types of players, and I've heard other people say this as well. And yeah, you've got players that make the system, and players who thrive within the system. And Zinchenko makes it. Arsenal don't do what they excelled in their previous 12 to 13 months or so without Zinchenko and his ability. And even though he gets a criticism from Arsenal fans and rival fans about his defensive lapses in concentration and his weaknesses in that area, but what he gives Arsenal offensively, and I'd say defensively as well, because keeping the ball, maintaining possession, the attack is the best form of defense. It's a cliche and it is a reason, and how we're able to progress the ball through the pitch and dominate in so many areas is through Zinchenko. And we saw that return against Manchester United and how quickly he was getting the ball forward to Odegaard, into Eddie Nketiah, into Rice, progressing it. And he's a midfielder playing at left back, essentially. Like, in this similar mold to Trent Alexander-Arnold, midfielder, creative, technical precision, playing in the deeper block, playing within the build-up and the progression phase, which is what I really love about Zinchenko and why he's so vital. And the second part, what I wanted to say, is Thomas Partey moving out into that area is because that's what him and Zinchenko built on. That's where we built our solidity in possession and in progressing the ball up the pitch, because Partey and Zinchenko are, alongside Odegaard, but he plays further up the pitch, closer towards goal, are two and some of our most technically gifted players who are comfortable under pressure, who have a 360 turn, and they have the mirrors, the wing mirrors available to look left and right, and they can get out of any situation on their day. And that's where they really thrive. And that's why we've seen Partey move at right back and into that midfield. And when he has that to cover out wide, it's got a lot of people worried and scared. And Arteta spoke about this in the pre-match press conference before the United game and said that Partey played at right back. Did you know that? Under Diego Simeone, the best defensive coach in the world. And it's very true. The reason why Arsenal fans are feeling a little bit more apprehensive about him playing there and more cautious and worried is because of the injury record that he has had whilst at Arsenal, losing that athleticism. I remember when we played against Atletico Madrid in the Europa League and we lost in the two legs. The first leg, when they went down to 10 men, Thomas Partey moved in at right back. Thomas Partey was man of the match against Arsenal, playing at right back, and that was a long time ago. That was under Arsene Wenger, and yeah, we've seen his decline physically, which has worried Arsenal fans, but he's got the technical capability and even the defensive understanding. And in those 3 games, I didn't think that Thomas Partey was actually the issue. If you have a look at some of the goals, the only goal that you'd say it was a problem in was the first goal against Fulham. But a lot more of the responsibility goes on Saka for me for giving the ball away there. But that misunderstanding between him and White, as Ben White looks to overlap on the right, whilst Partey stepped into midfield, leaving that space open, which Saka didn't intend to play into, and that allowed Andreas Pereira to get to the ball and get the shot off. And so that's the only time where we've seen a little bit of teething issues, I'd say, in that right side. In defensive aspect, offensively, yes, I don't think we've mirrored on the left-hand side what we've needed to do. So we have Zinchenko out there on the left when we're in our prime and when we're looking at our best, and he provides that balance because we have Havertz or Granit Xhaka, who didn't take many touches of the ball in that left 8 position, and that's always interesting. And I love listening to different people's thoughts on this and what they kind of want, because when Havertz plays in there, it's a weird role because Havertz is completely different to Fabio Vieira. Fabio Vieira is different to Leandro Trossard, and Trossard's a bit more similar to Emile Smith-Rowe, but even he is more different. And it's very interesting how that we mix and match really there. But in other positions, we try to have a have a have a similarity, play with some sort of defined roles where players are of a similar profile, fill into those areas at times. But in that that Kai Havertz role and that left sort of midfield, it's very different and has so many variables, which I find very interesting. But yeah, that's the two main reasons. So Zinchenko injured for preseason, and hasn't had a preseason. Sorry, Thomas Partey gives us that natural ability to step into midfield, create that overload, and just mirror that on the other side. And the third reason about Gabriel is we have seen our left when we played that formation and when we played that sort of system. Gabriel, our left back, was very much a more of an orthodox left back, someone who goes up and down and their main job is to be defensively and provide width. Tomiyasu did that. Kivior provided that, and even Timber in the first game against Nottingham Forest. And I think that's had a big impact on that left side with Kai Havertz and Martinelli's game because of all those changes and not having that fluidity in that. And allowing these players to build relationships. I think that's had a big hindrance on the likes of Havertz and Martinelli in particular. And Martinelli had his best game I think that was his best game of the season so far against Manchester United. And it's no coincidence that he had his best game and returned sort of to the level. Still wasn't amazing and still not to the best of what we've seen of Martinelli that we saw from him last season, of course. But he looked a lot more of a threat. He was causing Wan-Bissaka a lot of issues, getting down the outside, winning corners, so showing wonderful piece of skill, was involved in the goal. Of course, he assisted it. And then in some of our biggest chances created with the Havertz one, he was the one that crossed it into the area, which caused the mix-up between Dalot and Martial, and the ball fell for Havertz there. And he started the massive opportunity for Bukayo Saka as well later in the second half, when we worked it really well on that right side, moving it from left to right and then getting the cross in. So Martinelli was a key threat, and I was a bit harsh on him in my match reaction because I said I gave him a 6. But when watching the game back, everything that was good came through Martinelli essentially on that left side. So he was brilliant, and we started to see the return of Martinelli when he played with his good mate that he's played so many games with now, has a proper understanding and relationship with, in Alexander Zinchenko. So there's no coincidence there. And Zinchenko, with Thomas Partey being out injured, with Timber being out, he's gonna be so important, and we need to make sure he remains fit. When we've had Tomiyasu playing out there, I thought against Crystal Palace we were good. Defensively, we were sound. Away from home, I think we naturally tend to be anyway, a lot more concentrated. But we didn't kind of have that fluidity. We didn't create as many chances or didn't get into the final third as much as we wanted. We controlled a lot of possession, and our possession stats were high, and in our field tilt. So mainly field tilt just means how much possession we're having it, how far into the opposition's half are we in there, close to their goal, and it was high. So we had that a lot in those games, and Zinchenko will allow us to do that and create more, breaking through the lines. Odegaard are two of our most creative players. And it's mad to say that one's from a left back, but hey, Liverpool, their most creative players have been from their fullbacks in their prime, in Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I think that's going to be key. And yeah, and that's that quote right there that I've just left up on the screen from Ramsdale, it's massive because he's coming out and saying that, and he's not even the manager. So that left side returning, Zinchenko came in alongside Gabriel because what Zinchenko lacks defensively and why we allow him to have so much freedom going forward is because when we have Gabriel Magalhaes, he gives us that defensive stability. And how good was he against Manchester United? He was fantastic, brilliant to see him return, and that's the type of mentality we want, guys. So big up to each and every one of you in the building here as well. Before I move on into my next pieces that I wanted to speak about, I'm just going to have a look into some of your comments because I know I've been talking for a little bit now. So so now big up to yourself. Really says, I see some weaknesses in it based on the way your change and how we set up. Oh, is that about the Man United game? Yeah, there's weaknesses, but like I think the weaknesses are from the lacking in relationships and understanding with different players. Havertz and Declan Rice, that's 2/3 of our midfield that are brand new and playing in different roles, you see. So I think that's why we haven't looked at our fluid best as well. Appreciate you, Mr. 200. Good evening to yourself, Mr. W and Mrs. W. Love that vibes. I can see really some vibes talking about all the waffle. Hey, this is Tereak Talks, man. This is what we do here. Miss Wesbird says, agree. Big up to yourself, Moss in the building. Shay's in here as well. Man United was an easy win. Only going up from here, and Man United will get much better too. Rasmus and Amrabat, nice signings. And yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that first part. The Man United thing that needs a whole nother stream in itself because I see where you're coming from, and I agree. I think Rasmus, Hojlund, and Amrabat will help them stylistically, but I think there's other things that might not help them. Dressing room and all these other things, and yeah, I think they're massive. Constructive criticism is okay, but hatred is not. Absolutely. You're talking. Nah, never. Even Moss coming in with the sarcasm. But listen to Shay right here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and get the man to 800 subscribers. Appreciate you, Shay. And yeah, hit that like on the video as well if you haven't done so already. So yeah, Arsenal returning and slowly getting back up to the level that we've seen in that Manchester United game as well. And I just wanted to mention, I'm going back to this screen because I've got written down in my notes here. The big three. And who's Arsenal's big three, you might be asking? Because no one else has referred them to that. This is Tereak Talks, just trying to make up things himself. But I'm talking about Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard. Arsenal's big three. The reason I call them that are top three goal scorers last season, our biggest threats in the attack, consistently there, consistently played and were available, and goals and assists came from our Wideman and Martin Odegaard scoring quite a few as well. I think these three are slowly they're getting back into it. I think it's a big factor why we haven't been as convincing in games because I don't think they've all been at their best. Martinelli was his best game and against United. Before that, I thought it was quite poor in his execution. Against Fulham, he had the ball a lot and wasn't executing it right, and we missed a lot of our chances, and we didn't even create and certain opportunities that we didn't even create from in those areas against Crystal Palace. So it was anonymous, and all links back to that left-hand side again, guys. That's a big reason why I think with that. And Odegaard and Saka, not seeing them towards their best because we've been very overloaded on that right side, and teams have known that and put a lot of their players across and leaving us with a big imbalance. I do believe Zinchenko provides that balance again on that left. He can overlap, he can underlap, he's got the freedom to go wherever he wants on the pitch because he's that good. So we haven't quite been, although those big three haven't quite been at their best, but even though they haven't been at their best, you know what's so good about these? They're still putting goals away, still getting GA, still getting goals and assists. And that's the mark of top quality players who are bordering on world class. And some of them, you might say they are already. Saka, Ballon d'Or nominee. Yeah, you don't get that without being one of the best in your position. Do you understand that? So yeah, Odegaard, one of the highest goal scoring midfielders in a season with non-penalty as well. Martinelli, the talent, the output that he shows at his young age, forgetting how young these guys still are. Saka just turned 22. Martinelli's 21. Martin Odegaard's 23, 24? No older than 24. And the responsibility and the output that they've shown is ridiculous whilst not being at their best. Martin Odegaard's 2 goals already this season. Saka 2 goals. Martinelli 1 and quite a few assists, and both of them, all 3 of them have. Outstanding. And I can't wait for them to start to get to their best. And let's hope that we get them at their best towards, and we can be able to maintain their levels through to the end of the season. I'll take a slower start in August, September, October, if it means that by March, April, May, they are at their brilliant, sharp best and able to maintain that. And that's what I'll take. A slowly get working our way up, because we saw last season how fast we started and how it took a toll. Yeah, of course, they played a lot of games and we didn't have as much depth beyond them as we did at the start of the season, as we did towards the end, and what we do now. So yeah, it should be interesting. Due to injuries as well, let's not forget Gabriel Jesus out injured a lot. To Emil Smith Rowe, he's like another new player that can play across all those sort of roles now, and we hope that he gives us a level. But I'll talk about them a bit later. So yeah, those 3 starting to return towards their best and had key moments in that game against Manchester United. Man United need the January window now, in my opinion. 100% agree. Yeah, they need to still get rid of some players, still sort their defensive positions. The fact that Maguire and Evans are coming on in 2023, it's beyond belief. It is crazy. Anthony Sancho, yep, and forgot about them as well. And they're going to need a winger, at least one winger now in January. I think the fluidity will get sorry, Wesbird. I think the fluidity will get better the more we play. Hopefully, then we will peak at the final knockings rather than falling short. Exactly. It's like we read each other's mind, or it's like I read your comment before I said what I said, but I genuinely didn't, because the great minds think alike. Wesbird, Saka, Rice, and Odegaard, and Saliba, the big 4. Yeah, well, it'll be, if I'm just talking about it in an attacking sense, because yeah, we've got a strong spine. You got to include Aaron Ramsdale in that, defensive midfielder in there too, as well. But yeah, the attacking sense, those are the big 3 who get the highest attacking in terms of output. And you don't get that without Odegaard. Yeah, you don't get either. They are massive, because you don't get the creativity without Odegaard in the central areas, who's able to really connect well with Saka, switching out to the left to Martinelli. And if you take out one of the wide men, it leaves us with an imbalance, shall I say? We don't sort of have that threat from both areas. And Martinelli and Saka are different, but they both carry the same a high threat and problems for fullbacks in that sense. So yeah, 100% agree. So now, next thing I wanted to talk about was, so yeah, we kind of spoke about these other results and why things happened. We saw the return of our previous system in that Man United game, and a lot of changes in the others. But having out of 4 games, 3 wins and a draw, it's 10 points out of 12. It's not bad. It's not ideal when you're in a title race against Manchester City. In previous seasons, if it wasn't for the levels that Manchester City have taken this league up to, that would be very good in terms of winning a title, and you can maintain that and win a league throughout 38 games, that sort of pace. Do you understand? So, yeah, I don't even know the math. I don't even want to try and work it out. I might have to whack out a calculator, but 10 points from 12, 3 wins from 4. Yeah. I don't want to work it out right now in terms of that. But if you guys can, what are we on course for if we had kept this sort of pace up for the rest of the season. I'd have to do 38 divided by 4, wouldn't I? Yeah. This, but I don't. I'm going in a tangent, but I'm committing to it now. I'm committing to it. Don't 38 divided by 4 equals 9.5, and then times that by. So what? I mean, that would still win you a league. It should still win you a league, and then you times that by 10. 10 points, 95 point. What, we on a 95-point pace? Still might not even win you the league. If my maths is correct, one pace for a 95-point season, probably still wouldn't. But that's crazy because we're unbeaten. But yeah, we're not going to keep this sort of level up, are we? As the games do come thick and fast. But yeah, the next thing that I wanted to speak about was the new signings, Declan Rice and Kai Havertz, because it feels like Jekyll and Hyde, chalk and cheese in terms of how they've started in the opening 4 games. Declan Rice hit the ground running, 2 player of the matches, scored the winning, a major goal against Man United in a big game in the last minute. It's been excellent. It's taken it to it like a duck to water, and kind of what we expected with Declan Rice. Whereas Kai Havertz, some fans will say kind of like how they expected as well. But he been okay. I think he has been okay. I don't think he's been anything worse than okay. His worst game was against Man United because of the moments in that, missing the big opportunity, being a big reason for the first goal. But what I would say with Kai Havertz, he has surprised me in a good sense defensively. If I told you that Arsenal look better defensively with Kai Havertz from in how he works on and off the ball in and out of possession than we did with Granit Xhaka, some of you might want to shoot me down right now and say, that's it, I'm not listening to Tweet Talks anymore. I know you like Kai Havertz, and I know you've been championing the signing, but you're moving crazy. I actually think that's been the case. In his counter pressing, winning the ball back up high, regaining possession, that's something that I noticed against Nottingham Forest the most. Running the most distance and getting the most distance covered in all of the games, apart from, did he get in the Man United game? I haven't seen the statistics there. But completing that in all of the games that he played a lot of minutes in, well, the Crystal Palace and the Forest game, that's definitely for sure. And I think defensively, he's looked solid. We haven't been getting play through the central areas due to Kai Havertz being out of position. I think what we have been underwhelmed with is him going forward and lacking that sort of confidence, going forward, driving into the box like we saw with that penalty shout that we had right there. This is what we need to see more from Havertz, and hopefully now that he starts to begin to build that relationship with whoever's playing on that left, with Zinchenko, hopefully going to get more games, have more of an understanding. Hit Martinelli, getting to understand him a little bit more. But I've already seen progress from that Fulham game with Martinelli and Havertz on that left. We saw it was a bit better against Manchester United when they were getting forward into the box, but we're lacking that execution now. That's the final thing. And I do believe Mikel Arteta will continue with Kai Havertz for me. I do think he will, especially going into the Everton game. And I don't even think it's just because of a confidence thing. That's why he try and play his way back into form. I think it's more of what he provides defensively as well, the things off the ball, and the threat that he gives you from going long and playing it in the air and being a long ball threat, which we've seen in the likes of Ramsdale play a long ball a lot more frequently. I think why we brought David Raya and why we were so keen on getting him is someone who's very accurate in his long ball distributions. And Kai Havertz has been an outlet in that sense. We saw it in the Manchester City game when he played up front as as the striker there, where he was going long towards him. He wins his aerial duels and ground duels quite well. He's really surprised me in that aspect of his game. So there's things that I've been pleasantly surprised with Kai Havertz, but overall, of course, what you're going to be judged on with Havertz is the goals that you're going to score, because you're a player that's an attacking player who, when he was at his best, was scoring goals, getting assists, late runs into the box. That's what we brought in him to get into that box as much as possible, win headers. When the ball falls to you like it did against United, take that opportunity, provide more support for the striker. And I think it will be more interesting when Jesus gets onto that side as well and gets back into the team. Because remember when Eddie came in for Gabriel Jesus initially last year, and we saw a slight dip in Martinelli's performances in that December-January period, and we saw an increase back into his performances and get back up to the level when Trossard came into that false nine. Because of Eddie, how he is stylistically and how he wants to get into the... He's really improved in his overall game. Like, I'm not criticizing him here. This isn't no criticism of Eddie. This is just a profile, a profile issue that we don't have when Jesus is there and available, or when Trossard plays in that false nine position where he drifts out to the left. When Jesus is there, we see him occupy the wide areas, and he's comfortable in doing that. I mean, Jesus was a winger under his time at Manchester City a lot. And that's when Martinelli gets into the box, and that leaves the space for Havertz to get into there as well. And it's not just Martinelli whose performances dropped when Eddie and Nketiah initially came into the side. Well, Arsenal was still winning games, so that was the main important thing. But it was Granit Xhaka too. And it's all about these relationships. Aaron Ramsdale said it. Left unit, Arsenal work in units and relationships and these sort of areas of the pitch. That's what we're built on. Gabriel and Saliba, relationship. Zinchenko, Martinelli, and Kai Havertz there, a relationship. Do you understand? And only I said this Declan Rice, who I'm about to move into now, is someone who has a personality and ability to play within all different areas of that and build relationships and thrive. And that's why we spent £105 million on him, ladies and gents. Someone that can go into any part of the pitch and look comfortable, and someone who has not just the technical ability but the personality to give me this ball now, let's work this together, let's break them down. Seeing him from drifting left to right in transition, dominating the central areas, and against Man United, clamping it down. The issues that we had when Man United were getting through, when they were bypassing Rice, when Rice was either caught too far up the pitch, like for their goal when Havertz gave it away, or when they were going long straight down into the channels towards Marcus Rashford. But when they tried to ever play through the central areas, Declan Rice was there intercepting, keeping Bruno Fernandes quiet, because that's where Man United's big threat is going forward. If they can't get the ball as quickly out into Rashford with space in behind, it will be getting it into Bruno, and then he'll spot that pass and he'll play that direct pass in behind with a lot of accuracy, and that's why he creates so many big chances for United and big chances in it since he's come to the Premier League. So that is where, and I still think we'll see a development in Declan Rice as well. We've seen him, and it was the Arsenal Vision that we're talking about this, and big up to them because they certainly know what they're talking about with this. And Declan Rice, when we're coming up against opponents, they're packing out the middle of the pitch. And we haven't quite seen Rice step into that middle and take the ball on the half turn, because that's not what his game is. And Clive said it, he likes to receive the ball on the run. Yeah, and that was perfect, because when he's running and driving into that middle, carrying the ball, that's when the options open up. You pull defenders out and midfielders out, and they're attracted to the ball, and that's when you can start playing these 1-2s in and around the corner. And when we do have a Gabriel Jesus up top who has that technical ability and the creativity to be playing it around the corner, like we saw in tight spaces again on the weekend in that right wing. That's where he was taking up most of it when he came on, and generating opportunities and chances. I think we are gonna improve, and we are going to. I think after the international break, as long as we get players back returning healthy and fit, we'll even see an improvement in Rice's game. Hopefully, we'll see him take more chances, go forward a lot more. And when Thomas Partey returns, I think that will free up Rice and give us a little bit more scope to rotate and mix when Havertz is there or not there. Vieira, Smith Rowe, we got even more players that can give us that bit of mixture and rotation and add more variety to our game. And then I expect in the big games, when Partey and Rice are fit, they play like against City. And if Partey was fit against United, I think he would have started. And Havertz would have been the one that dropped to the bench. But yeah, I'm still convinced with Havertz. I'm still convinced that he will be a success at Arsenal. I still feel that. And I'm starting. Maybe I'm just wearing red tinted glasses and Havertz tinted glasses in particular. But I think once we give him some time and he gets that confidence, similar to Fabio Vieira, that Fulham game, that was a completely different Fabio Vieira to what we've ever seen in an Arsenal shirt for a prolonged period in that match. And what we saw with him, they're playing that through ball into Gabriel Jesus with big space and beyond there, way to pass, timing at perfect, top quality. And now I hope that we do see the best of Fabio Vieira. And I don't think it'll be the Everton game, but maybe he'll start up against, is it PSV that we got in our first Champions League game? Maybe that game will be more suited for him. We saw Fabio Vieira perform at his best in Europe. The game's a bit more slower pace. It's not as physical and intense as in the Premier League. But within it, Fabio Vieira showing a lot more urgency and understanding with his teammates and understanding of what's required in this Arteta system. We may even see him look even better in the Champions League. And the fact that Arteta's bringing him off the bench first is massive and it's key. Even before Leandro Trossard, who I thought was our best player in pre-season. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts before I move on into the next topic right here. Let's get into here. I'd really like Wes Bird says, I'd really like to see ESR given a chance, but it's not looking likely at the moment, sadly. We'll get into that. Yeah, I've got my thoughts onto that there. Yeah, we haven't seen him. He's not had any minutes yet. He's not had any minutes, but I've got my reasoning and what I think that will happen for that in a little bit. I think that's the next topic, so I should have read that last. But Mr. W says, big problem for us is Partey and his persistent injuries. 100% agree. When he's fit, he's the best in the league, but he's hardly fit. Reluctantly, I think it's time to park him up and move on. I think, yeah, after this season, that's the wise decision. And the fact that there was a lot of rumours saying that Arsenal were open to a sale with Thomas Partey and open to moving him on. There's no smoke without fire, and for the right fee. What will he have? A year left on his contract now, going into next season he'll be into his final year. Yeah, I think we'll look to move him on and for a cheaper fee due to those injuries. And once again, picking up another injury that's put him out for 6 weeks. It's going to take him time to get back as well because it's an injury that he's had previously in and around the area. So it's not going to be a smooth return, smooth transition. Do you understand? So picking up a lot of those muscular injuries in those same areas. So it's, yeah, it is annoying indeed. Havertz was a surprise signing for me. Never rated him at Chelsea, and I'm not seeing anything here at Arsenal. That's changing my mind. 65 million is a lot of money. Arteta needs to make it work. Mr. W, there are things that I think that will change your mind. That he will change your mind eventually. Those runs that he's making into the box, he hasn't quite been found yet. Remember, I know this is an extreme example because the guy was still scoring goals, but Erling Haaland in his early days at Manchester City, and I remember a lot of the analysis there, then Foden's not quite finding his runs into the box. When they find those runs, when Kevin De Bruyne plays those balls into that space that he wants to operate in, and those sort of areas that he's getting into in the box, when they find him and they're able to execute that pass, that's where we'll see Haaland score even more goals. And he did. He was scoring a lot of goals anyway because that's Erling Haaland's world-class ability. But they're missing out on even more opportunities with his runs. And I need Havertz with his runs. He needs to be more aggressive. That's what Erling Haaland, that's why he thrives. That's why Manchester City have to put it on a plate for him. And Foden and De Bruyne and all the likes of left with no choice, because Erling Haaland, when he's running into the box, the speed and the power and the frame that he has, but with the confidence and saying, no, you have to play me this ball. That's the type of runs I need to see Havertz make. He's been getting into the areas, but I don't think he's been quite getting into them with the intent. Play me that ball. I'm making this run. Remember the Ødegaard goal on the weekend? Look at there's a still image. Arms wide open. Martinelli, if you don't pick me out, you got to see me. I'm making myself as big, as wide as possible for you to see me. And Martinelli cleverly picked him out, and that's where Arsenal grabbed that equaliser 35 seconds after Man United scored in that situation. So that's what, offensively, we'll see that. And defensively, I think we've been quite good with Havertz too, winning the ball back in transition. But yeah, I don't want to see him in deeper areas, by the way. Let me just say that was one thing I didn't like on the weekend. He didn't look comfortable at when he dropped deep into our own third in that build-up progression phase. Nah, that's not where he's comfortable at. Yeah, not at all. He gave the ball away, I think, in that position as well. And yeah, thankfully, Man United, their attack broke down. But yeah, he's not great in that position. Wesbert says, I'm not convinced yet either, to be honest, Mr. T. I remember what Xhaka gave us defensively, but I do believe he could offer us better option defensively in time. I'd also like to see other players get a chance. Exactly. Xhaka right now, Xhaka was better offensively than Havertz, and that's crazy to say because we all thought, yep, it was the other way around. We thought Havertz, he should make us better going forward, but it's going to leave us a big area defensively. No, I think Xhaka was a bigger threat. He was scoring more goals, and yeah, he was making more runs into the box with more intent on a frequent basis than Havertz has done. But I've seen him make the odd one or two. And yeah, and I think once we can get Saka and Ødegaard used to him and finding him in that back post, I think that can happen. Rice, however, I'm very convinced what he will bring to the team, and he will only get better. Pure quality, in my humble but accurate opinion. Yeah, exactly. The contrast and the big difference between these two isn't just like people say ability. I don't think it is in that area. I think it's personality. Declan Rice taking it to like a duck to water. You can. This is why he's one of the leaders. Why Arsenal are willing to pay so much money, 40 million pounds more than what we paid for Kai Havertz, which is a lot of money. So yeah, with Declan Rice, what a man, and that's why I've got his name on the shirt. I got his name on the shirt before he even scored that goal. What a player, man. And yeah, I can't wait to see him settle into this team. And really, he's still not settled, I'm still saying it. He's still not settled, guys. He might be our player of the month, but we're still not even nowhere near. We're scratching the surface with how good this guy can be. Havertz has to work. We spanked 70 million on Pepe. And if we spank another 65 on a failure, don't expect silent Stam to dig too deep into his pockets, into very long pockets anytime soon. Yeah, exactly. I will say this, yeah. Thierry Henry, he was one of our greatest players in recent history. Took a while to adapt. Robert Pires, believe he took a while too. Yeah, 4 games. Well, I'm willing to die on this Havertz hill. I'm gonna. This is what's happening. Me and Arteta, I'm willing to do it, man. I genuinely think he will get to that level sometime soon. I've never been more confident on a player with this. But yeah, big up to yourself, my bro. Ends in the building as well. Love to see you in here, my bro. G Will says, I think in certain games we should swap flanks with Saka and Martinelli. This will make our attack more direct, less cutting in, and more crosses for the likes of Havertz, Rice, etc. to attack. And this is what I find interesting, G Wills, because you know what? I low-key agree with you, because we've seen Martinelli play on the right. Saka made his name playing on the left at times too. Do you mean that's where he came through on that left side with his crossing ability? He got loads of assists at a young age. Do you know what, G Wells? I think you've tapped into something there, because I've been thinking of potentially switching Ødegaard and Havertz, switching Ødegaard into that left side, and where he can get crosses into the box. Havertz, who will work naturally more on the right. You know, I feel for him, for someone who's going to be a left footer cutting in, that's going to be what he's going to be wanting more. Someone who's going to be taking more shots. So, and Ødegaard, I'm sure he could play in that left half space as well and connect with that left wing, whether it's Martinelli or a Saka. You're onto something there. I'll be interested to see if Arteta does switch them. He's never. I can't say he's never done it, because we've seen Martinelli play on the right and Saka play on the left, but not in this iteration of Arsenal. We haven't seen it yet. He didn't do it last season. Yeah, G Wills, big shout right there. I like that. Rice is thriving with pressure, whereas Havertz is struggling with confidence, but fingers crossed he'll come good. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the difference in their personality, and that's one criticism I gotta say of Havertz is, you know, I want to see more personality like this. I don't think he's not hid when he's played, and the fact that he gave that ball away for the goal, and then he still turned around and had the ability to drive forward and get us that penalty that was overturned. I took confidence. I took maybe because I'm searching for it. Maybe I am, and a lot of people might say I will be. But to not just hide and go into a shell and not decide to drive and go with that opportunity there, I thought a growth. I saw a growth in that. Small steps, but we'll get there with Kai. We will. I do believe we will do. Not the final thing. Before I get into this Champions League thing, actually, talking about that, I just wanted to speak. Let's come back up again. I've double clicked it. I just wanted to speak about, Wesbird. He mentioned this earlier when she spoke about Emil Smith Rowe. But first, I'll talk about the top performers, the three players who I think have performed the best so far in these opening 4 games. Declan Rice, Eddie Nketiah, and William Saliba. First of all, with Declan Rice, we kind of spoke about him a little bit before when we talked about the new signings. The fact that he's come in, player of the match in 2 games, away to Crystal Palace and at home against Manchester United, scoring the winner. Excellent. And he's not looked out of place at all with the ball in possession, out of possession. We've seen the best of Declan Rice, what we've seen at West Ham so far. And I still think there's more to come that we'll see further into his game that we haven't quite seen in his time at West Ham, just due to David Moyes playing a completely different style of play and a lot less quality than we have at Arsenal. So Declan Rice, we're going to see even better from him. Eddie Nketiah, big shout out to him, man, because he's playing for England, got his call up, well deserved. And this guy, chapeau, man. Because I'm not going to lie, I've praised Eddie Nketiah in his time on the channel, and some people I speak to, people think I'm just a total Eddie Nketiah stan. I'm not as big of a stan as what I'd say Wilf is with Eddie Nketiah. But I was questioning him and I was doubting him at the start of the season. I said, I don't think he'll be good enough for Arsenal for us to compete across multiple competitions. But I've been pleasantly surprised. He's just improved and taken his game to another level yet again, guys. He's improved his hold-up play, his link-up, his contribution. His best game for me was against Crystal Palace. His probably worst game was his last game against Man United. But Forest, he was sharp, grabbed his goal in that one, won the penalty against Palace, and made a huge impact coming off the bench against Fulham. Really impressed with Eddie, and deservedly gets his call up. And I will be watching those England games. just to make sure. Sorry about the internet, guys. I don't like it. It keeps dropping. As long as you can still hear me, that's all good. Let me know if you can still hear me, guys, or if there's any issues with that there. But yeah, it's massive shout out to Eddie Nketiah. Phenomenal start for him, and just keeps improving once again. And the last one, William Saliba. Just kind of take it for granted how good this guy is, I believe. You know, like another player. There's some players that thrive in the system. Some of them make them. William Saliba makes the system, allows us to be so fluid tactically, allows us to add so much variability to our game. Having been him as the central centre back and literally defending on his own at times before Gabriel came back in. And then when Gabriel comes back in, he's able to cover on that right, progress the ball quickly, be so brave with the ball at his feet and in possession. And yeah, we saw it didn't quite work out on a few occasions against Manchester United, but that sort of bravery and the level that he's got there and able to allow us to press high with a nice high line. William Saliba, what a player, what a man. And I think if I was to give one player of the month out of Rice, Eddie Nketiah and Saliba, it's very difficult. Very difficult. For me, I'd say I'd give it to Eddie Nketiah because it's very much unexpected. Rice, what a first month as a new signing. If he got player of the month, player of the matches, winning goal against United, a community shield to add as well. You won't get many first months than that. And then Saliba returning back from injury, another one who I still think can improve as his fitness levels increase and he feels more confident after his long-term back injury that he had. We missed a lot of the last season. Well, not long-term, but medium term. And then the players that I expect more to come from, Kai Havertz, of course. And as I said earlier, the big three, Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, not because they've been poor at all, but for their level, they've still got levels to hit. They can even improve on last season. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, crazy. The big three, I'm expecting more. And the players that we yet to see, one of them, ESR, Emil Smith-Rowe, Vieira, Trossard, Jesus, Zinchenko, and Gabriel Magalhaes as well. We've only seen them start one game. Kivior, Tomiyasu, David Raya, Reece Nelson, Jorginho. These are some of these players have had minimal minutes. They've not even had 45 minutes, so some of these players haven't. Trossard's only had 45 minutes. And he was in a game where it looked, when we first watched it, he looked bad against Fulham. But I thought he was better than I thought when I watched the game back. Created some of our big chances. Saka should have scored at the back post there. Martinelli, Saka, and Smith-Rowe. Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard could even score more goals, have more goals to their name if they were as sharp or as what we know that they can be in moments we've seen that. So yeah, man. And these players, as the Champions League comes, this is where I was transitioning into this. When the Carabao Cup, when we get to 3 games a week and we have to change a bit more, and we've only played one game a week at this moment. September comes in. I expect Arsenal to be giving minutes to the likes of Smith-Rowe, Vieira, Trossard in the Premier League, not just in the Carabao Cup, but I want to see them get Premier League minutes as well. And I expect Arteta to do that. With Smith-Rowe, it's going to be interesting because he's not got any minutes at all. Where does he fit into this side? Who does Smith-Rowe come in for? The best that we've seen of Smith-Rowe was when he was playing out on that left wing. We've seen him play more recently in the interior, in the attacking midfield where Odegaard has played or where Kai Havertz has. But with the Fabio Vieira, who's played out wide and played on the right, played on the left now, man, it's going to be difficult to get all of these guys minutes and consistent minutes for where they're able to play and build a consistent rhythm. We can have some unhappy individuals, I feel, at the end of the season because I just don't know how you're going to give so many minutes. Like Trossard, he can even come in at left 8 and play in the interior. We've seen that happen in pre-season and he did really well. Reece Nelson, do you know what I mean? He just signed a new contract. Jorginho. I mean, he's going to get minutes now because of Partey's injury, of course. But before that, Declan Rice is one of the most durable players in the league. You're not really going to be getting beyond him after Arsenal paid for 105 million. You're not going to see too much rotation with him there. Kivior, Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu's going to have a big role now, Partey's injury. And I was quite impressed with him in the Crystal Palace game. And when he came off the bench, him, Vieira, Nelson were brilliant on that left. I thought and it gave us another dimension. We shut them down, Man United down defensively. They didn't have any. They only had one more chance, and that was the offside goal. But it was nowhere near Tomiyasu at that point, and that was Gabriel Jesus giving the ball away in that area. And speaking of Gabriel Jesus, he's only just come. He's not even started a game yet because he's just come back from a knee injury. Guys, we've got serious depth now. And when I saw that bench on the weekend, I was in disbelief that this is Arsenal. It just felt like the other day when we had Amari Hutchinson, Saladin on the bench away to Crystal Palace and whatnot towards the latter end of the season with only a couple of injuries. But now, this team's solid, and there's players that are going to miss out of the squads when all players are fit and available. They're going to miss out on match day squads, and they're going to be first team players who will be good enough. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. We're still not seeing the yet of David Raya, but thankfully he's been received permission to play in that Carabao Cup game. We've got so much tactical versatility in here as well. Big up to everyone in the building and in here as well. We're King's in here too. Big up to my bro. Says one thing that's so impressive with Rice is how fast he's taken on the number 6 role. Remember how long it took for Thomas Partey? 100%. You know what? Big shout out to you, King, for that. It took Thomas Partey 2 years. You know what? Let's say 2-3 years. We only saw Thomas Partey play that 6 by himself last year. Before that, it was more of a double pivot with Xhaka. So, yeah, big shout. And Declan Rice is playing that number 6 role right now. And we've even seen under Pep Guardiola, Rodri take his time, Jurgen Klopp, Fabinho take a season. Hey, Declan Rice is different than gravy, man. Kai will come good. He's doing the grafting on and off the ball. And once the confidence goes up a few levels, he will find his role. And I think he will come good. Yeah, and I think he'll provide that attacking threat. 100% King. I think he will score goals. He's making the runs into the box as long as we can find him. And then when we do find him, execution. That's what we need to see from Kai Havertz. As good as Saliba is, we've only kept 4 clean sheets in 27 games at home. I know clearly he's not responsible for every goal we concede, but must improve as a unit going forward to be competitive. Yeah, 100%. You are right. We do need to improve in that area. Concentration levels need to be at their highest. And this is as a unit. It's not even, to do with Saliba, of course, as well, but goalkeeper, the defense, the midfield, and the attack need to be concentrated. And I think that's where rotation needs to come in, have that freshness of legs, freshness of mind, and competitive nature where, if I'm not concentrated, I'm going to be dropped. And that's in every position, including the goalkeeper we have. I'm very high. And speaking of the goalkeeper, I'm very excited to see what Raya can do for us once he gets his chance. Exactly. And Wes Bird says, absolutely King. David Raya, it will be. There's been a lot of talk, that Sammy Mockbell reported that David Raya could be coming in, and Arteta's considering about starting him and giving him a run of games. I won't really listen too much into that. I'm not sure. Who knows? We can't predict what Arteta does next. He's a very hard man to predict. It's like almost predicting like Pep Guardiola in that sense. But I think Ramsdale will continue to get the games until he proves otherwise, and Raya will get chances in the Carabao Cup. Maybe we might see a rotation in the Champions League and in the Premier League. I'm open to that, though. I want to see. I'm open to seeing. I'm open to changing our thought processes on goalkeepers. You have a number 1 and your number 2. I don't know. I think if you have your goalkeeper competing like strikers do nowadays, it might work. Because remember, it weren't too long ago. It was probably 20 or so years ago. You can't have, you got to have a main number 9. You have to have a main number 9. Like, you have to give him games. You have to play them consistently. Look how we treat strikers now. Disposable. if they ain't starting well, or if 60 minutes are in and they haven't really got into the game, people are asking for another striker to come off their bench, or for their club to sign another striker of a similar level. So I think we can kind of expect this sort of evolution, I'd say, with goalkeepers. I think it might happen. The best, or I've repeated it many times on streams, the best we've seen of Edison was when Stefan Ortega came in. And Stefan Ortega is good enough to start for Manchester City, by the way. That's why Pep Guardiola was considering signing him. David De Gea, when Romero was there, Neuer, etc., when he had a good goalkeeper behind him too. So yeah, I do think that there is room for competition. And when this Champions League comes in, be interesting to see the rotations that we make. Who's going to play? The level of our group in Sevilla, Lens, and PSV, you can afford to rotate in certain areas. But the issue that we had in the Europa League last year, though, even in the group, we rotated too much, where players weren't sharp, and then we're never given the run of games to get sharp because of how good and how well we were playing at the start of that year. We got more games coming. If we are to compete in the Carabao Cup and progress through there, that's another competition we'll have to compete in. And then when January comes, but this isn't for now, when we have the FA Cup there too. That's why rotation in the Premier League is key. And what I would say for Arteta, we need to see more. We need to see ESR getting minutes. We need to see him getting minutes off the bench. We need to be seeing Reece Nelson get more. Jorginho now that we're going to be relying on him and dependent. Trossard too. Didn't come on against Man United. Had 45 minutes against Fulham, was taken off at halftime. Didn't come on against Crystal Palace. Came on towards the end of the Nottingham Forest game. But the opportunities will be there. They will be there. Arteta, that's your test now. That's as I've spoken about with confidence and Kai Havertz. I don't know. I'm not as confident because just based off the evidence that I've seen with that. But we've never been in the Champions League with Mikel Arteta. But you think maybe, with the Carabao Cup now, we didn't make it past the third round last year because we faced a tough team in Brighton, but we're facing a tough team away from home in Brentford. I want Arsenal and Arteta, what they're going to be saying is compete for every trophy possible. That's how they're looking at it. And why can't we look at it in that way as fans? Yes, it's not realistic, and I'm not saying, if we don't win the 4 trophies or win the treble, sack the manager. No, but let's aim to be the best and take it as far, because with the Champions League, with the Carabao Cup, with the FA Cup, there's a lot of luck that is involved. If you can avoid the big teams, or when you come up and play against Man Cities or, Bayern Munich's, whatever, if they've got an injury crisis or, they're in a bad vein of form themselves in the period that you play them, there's an opportunity there. And then, of course, anyone in a final, even if we're playing Aston Villa, I mean, we beat them 4-0 in the last FA Cup final, but you know what I mean, though, guys. There's always a chance. So Arteta, rotation's key because we need to, and that's it. Wesbert's put it in right here. Rotation is key, but it's a thin line for Arteta to get it right or wrong. True, it is a thin line because if we fail, he'll be looked on in that sense. And then, you rotated too much, or you've not. Let's say, he rotates a lot for the Brentford game, we get knocked out. Or you made too many changes. Or is it because you haven't played enough for these players? They've not been given enough minutes to be sharp to get it. So all eyes on him. As Tupac says, all eyes on me. That's what Arteta's going to be feeling. And I get it with the pressure, when the pressure builds and you're going to have to try and compete in every competition, you're going to naturally want to go for your best team. But look how that left us towards the end of last season, guys. Legs sharp, players injured. Mentally, we weren't given that sort of Man City aren't going to give you a break mentally anyway. So you need to make sure that your legs are going to be sharp. And it should be interesting there. But guys, that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Well, actually, I've got one more thing. What am I grading? What would you grade this season? And that's what I'm going to end with. I mean, not this season. What are you going to grade if you was going to do like a school, like an American grade? Or you can give me out of 10 as well, whichever one you prefer, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Out of 10, what are you going to grade our start of the season? I've given a letter, and I'm giving us a B. Some people might go C. C is a pass rate. We're performing at a pass rate right now. But I'd say a B because in the Premier League, to be unbeaten in 4 games, playing Man United, going away from home to Crystal Palace with 10 men, and yes, beating Forest, which is expected. But as you saw this weekend, expectations in the Premier League don't mean nothing when you're coming up against quality. The levels that we've got there, you can spend £1 billion British pounds and still not beat Forest at home. And Forest, against the opponents we've played on the weekend, went 2-0 up and put a good showing in. Took them to go down to 10 men as well. So, yeah, I'm giving us a B. I think we can get to an A level. I think we can get to an A level, and not the A level I mean like, what we have in our curricular system at sixth form. But yeah, big up to Peony in the building. Hope you're keeping well, my brother. And it's nice to see you in here. And he's saying if this is an 8 out of 10. I'd say that's probably what, a B plus if I was to put it in my system. But yeah, I think you're fair enough to say that. G Wills saying a C plus. I hear that. I wouldn't say, you see what Peony and G Wills have done there. I wouldn't go any higher than an 8, and I wouldn't go any lower than a C plus if I was you guys. But if you think differently, let me know your reasons. Big up to each and every one of you as well. Wesbird says B is fair as we've only dropped 2 points and it's a result business, but the performances could be better. Absolutely. And the performances, I'm very confident that they will improve. Let's just hope that we get players coming back fit from the international break as well. G Wills has also said here, still got it over that Fulham draw. Wish Arteta had used the tactic we use against Man United. Yeah, I hear you, G Wills. Once again, I don't think the tactics were to blame in that Fulham game. We created more chances than we did against Man United. And it was just the errors, conceding a stupid goal off a corner and conceding within the first minute. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was stupid. Like the Man United game, the tactics weren't even at fault for the goal. It was a mistake again from Kai Havertz when Man United took advantage of us. Yeah, hence the C. Wes Bird agrees with you there, but yeah, we got the Everton game coming up. But guys, before I do love and leave you, I hope you do enjoy this sort of mini break that we've got now going into it. Unless you are a big fan of the internationals, I'm wearing an England shirt. I thought I may as well for the international break, repping for Eddie Nketiah. That's it, and Saka, who's a Ballon d'Or nominee, by the way. Oh boy, you gotta love him. What a player he is, and yeah, man, he's our boy, our star boy. But big up to you guys. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your evening and towards the end of the week. I'm sure you'll see me more coming towards the weekend. And take care, guys. Stay tuned. Join the Discord if you haven't done so already. I will be posting more stuff in there as well for upcoming content. I'm looking to do a quiz as well with you guys at some point in the week. And yeah, or within this weekend or next week. Just about finding time. But guys, love and leaving you. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And bye-bye.